Before this review begins, let me start by saying that I know nothing about the world or universe of both the movies and manga that Alita comes from. However, I can say that after watching this movie, I do have an urge to go out and learn about this universe and its history because I am thoroughly impressed by this movie and enjoy it tremendously. Now that that's out of the way, let's talk about Alita Battle Angel. Off the bat, I can say that this movie rocks. I've always enjoyed anime, and to finally see an anime/manga being turned into a live-action film is both interesting and thrilling. Though people did not like Ghost in the Shell's live-action movie, I can say I really enjoyed it, and thought it stood up well with the original, which is something I can also say about Alita Battle Angel. Now, to get some context on this movie, I went online and checked out the animated OVAs Rusty Angel and Tears Sign from 1993, and I was surprised how in some scenes they almost went shot for shot with each other. A good example is in the Tears Sign animated OVA, Alita and Hugo are having a tiff about Hugo's evil doings, and the backdrop for this event is what appears to be some sort of foundry or cement works or possibly an old reactor of sorts, which, if you pay attention to, is almost identical to a shot in the 2019 Alita movie where they share a different moment of looking at the world in a pretty damn accurate recreation of the same place, which is awesome. Now, of course, when something is taken and adapted into a live-action movie or movie in general, a lot of things are changed, shifted around, or altered slightly, either for the audience or to make the movie flow better. This can be seen between both the animated and live action with things like characters' ages, looks, and how they interact with each other, stuff like that. A good example of this is in the live-action movie Dr. Ido, who is played by Christoph Waltz, is far older than his animated counterpart by many years, and interacts with Alita differently. In the animated movie, Ido comes to terms with Alita wanting to be a hunter-killer very rapidly, whereas in the movie he is far opposed to her becoming a hunter-killer, which ends with him taking his time to come around to her choice. And of course, there are also many differences between the manga, the anime, and the live-action movie, but I'm not here to compare the three, I'm here to review the live-action movie. For someone who knows absolutely nothing about the story or history of this particular group of characters, I can say that I was able to follow along with the movie extremely easily, and in places where heavy lore was implemented, I didn't feel like an outsider because they, for a simple way of putting it, dumbed down the history to a point where people like me would be able to hear it, understand it on a basic level, and then get back into watching the movie and have a good time without having to ponder why such a thing was happening or such a person was doing something. I felt this movie did its damnedest to stick to both the manga and the anime just from the sheer level of detail they put into things like exploring Alita's backstory, the history of the city, and from small glances with what we see in the movie, the war that basically ended the world. Now, for an Alita Luddite such as myself, this movie definitely didn't alienate me, but it in fact did its best to draw me into the story and plant the seeds of curiosity, because now I want to go away and check out the manga, and it also made me watch the anime, which I find is an awesome thing to come from a live-action movie based on a manga that I know nothing about. You can be sure I'm going to check out the manga series after watching the movie again. Now, of course, every movie has its good points and its bad points, so let's talk about the bad. For one, just looking at Alita's face when she first opened her eyes kind of made me worry about how the incorporation of CGI and live-action would blend together, which in a whole isn't that great, especially with the really big anime eyes, which I don't really think was needed after checking out the anime because she is pretty damn well proportioned in that, whereas in the live action, her eyes are huge, which can sometimes draw your attention away from the scene and onto her big fishbowl eyes. As well as a few things that only people who are deeply familiar with the source material would understand, the only other gripe I have with this movie is not getting to see much of Christoph Waltz kicking ass as a hunter-killer, which is most likely due to the fact that this movie's version of Ido is an old guy, whereas he is youngish in the anime and manga, but apart from that, this movie's sweet. The technological skill behind turning a manga and anime into a live-action movie is a lot harder than I originally thought it would be, and I'm not going to spoil any of that, because you can check out just how they made Alita look the way she did and many of the other CGI work done in this movie by checking out the 20th Century Fox's YouTube. Seriously, it's extremely impressive. Just to round this review to a close, there is a whole bunch more I could say about this movie, but I don't feel like I know enough about the Alita universe to talk more on its lore, so I will say this. This movie is great. You don't get lost in any part of it. It has everything you need in a movie with a good mix of action, comedy, love and loss, and I do believe they found a good middle ground between making a carbon copy of the manga/anime and adding some new twists and turns to this live-action movie that I hope you will agree makes this movie awesome. Alita Battle Angel, you have been reviewed. Now pass me that mortar ball and let's create some carnage.